villains. Villains are something that a lot of people have to deal with, not a lot of people want to write correctly. What do I mean? Let's take it step by step in understanding a good villain. What is a villain? Well, in most terms, it's just anyone who opposes the protagonist in any story whatsoever. What I'm trying to do is help people to understand the difference between a good villain and a top-tier villain, and also those mediocre villains at the bottom of the barrel that no one wants to talk about. You know who you are. Let's get this out of the way. What makes a good villain a good villain? Well, one, they have to impose the hero. They have to be an actual source and an actual threat to the hero. Now, could this be, anyone at all? Yeah, sure. Even another main character could be classified as a villain, I say in air quotes. But I'm actually going to talk about another important factor. Let's take Lord Humperdinck from The Princess and the Bride. He is not a traditional villain in the sense that, I want to control everything, I want to do this, that, and the other. No, he's more of a, I'm going to go ahead and hide behind the six-fingered man, and that's basically it. I'm not really that imposing. The six-fingered man is actually a much more imposing villain. One, he actually manages to kill the hero, again I say in air quotes, but it's not something so simple as a lot of people understand. Let's take another villain that a lot of people really seem to enjoy. Darth Vader. Let's take Darth Vader. He is a classic grade A villain. The reason is because he's actually imposing. We know what he's doing 90% of the time. Now you can take Humperdinck and say we know what he's doing 90% of the time, which is true. But we also don't understand his motivations or why they're there. Let's just go ahead and continue on with this idea of Darth Vader at first. Darth Vader is constantly attacking Luke. He's constantly giving Luke grief. Why? Well, one, Luke has to actually face Darth Vader at some point. Even before the idea of Luke knowing that Darth Vader is his father, is simply because it's just not really in the general idea or the gist that this is going to be a great idea. Now let's go ahead and take this onto perspective. Even though we knew nothing about the idea of Darth Vader being the father, we did have a general grasp of something else. Luke Skywalker knew he had to face Darth Vader, but was always so worried about it. He knew he was a Jedi, and he knew that he had to face Darth Vader. But the problem is that even though Darth Vader isn't in the scene, you can obviously tell the idea is Darth Vader is doing this, that, and the other thing. And some people, probably myself included, we're dealing with the idea of what is Darth Vader doing at this moment. Because a lot of people enjoy the concept of Darth Vader. Darth Vader is the only person in the world that can command the presence that he did. I'm sorry to say, but not a lot of people can actually reach that height of Darth Vader. Darth Vader is one of those characters who everyone loves. Now we're going to take his grandson, Kylo Ren. What makes him a poor villain, in my opinion? Well, the idea is that he tries to live up to the legacy of Darth Vader, but can't. One, he's not that imposing. He tries to come off as imposing, and admittedly, at the beginning of The Force Awakens, he was quite imposing. He was actually a very dangerous threat. Any and all people feared him. But then once he took the mask off, that villain was ruined. Because it ruins the allure of mystery. Is he as twisted as Darth Vader, or is he a younger Darth Vader in a way? Is he, someone who we can relate to, but the mask keeps that relation very brief. Now let's go ahead and continue on with this idea. How do we make a good villain? A good villain is rather simple. They just have to impose the hero. They have to have the hero be challenged in a way, if for lack of a better word. You want the hero to be challenged. The villain provides that challenge. Now, is there any way to make the challenge more obvious? Maybe. Is there any way to make the challenge less annoying? Of course. But I believe that the best way to put it is that if the villain does not actually provide any sort of challenge to the hero, like Kylo Ren never did, Darth Vader provided challenge to Luke because of his presence, because of his stature, because of reputation. Darth Vader always opposed. Kylo Ren, on the other hand, never was that imposing because he was always whining about everything. Now, this isn't a dump on Star Wars in general, and Disney, please don't attack me. I know you're probably holding a sniper to my head, but I digress. Darth Vader and Kylo Ren are supposed to be the same characters. Again, I'm going to be saying in air quotes because I'm not actually showing anything. But Darth Vader does a lot more in terms of being an imposing villain. How? How is he so imposing? Why is he so imposing? Well, there's a very simple reason. Darth Vader becomes an imposing villain because we just see the lack of empathy he has. He doesn't care about who dies. He kills a lot of his men pretty much 90% of the time, if anyone even looks at him funny. And he kills them pretty quickly, actually. Kylo Ren never received that kind of, fear in his troops. Like, yeah, sure, he had a lightsaber and he had the Force, and he was very clearly a dangerous person, but he never received that same command of respect. He was always that kind of character who just sits there and goes like, oh, I'm going to be this guy who wants to create an empire like my grandfather did. But the problem is you can't create an empire on nothing. Now, I'm going to be done talking about Star Wars right now because I do have a feeling Disney is going to be bursting through my window and kill me when I sleep, but I digress. Let's take another villain from another popular story. Arthas, the Lich King, from the World of Warcraft stories. What made Arthas such a dangerous villain? Well, it's simple, really. He was imposing, he was deadly, and he gave everyone a good fight. Now, there's always that concept that, he believes he's doing what is right when he's slowly being corrupted, which is admittedly a good story idea, but it's not really a great idea if you want to make a villain who is completely imposing and cannot be stopped. That is the main purpose of this. Arthas, in his own mind, believes that he was doing what was right, which you can make an argument that that's a good character, a good villain, because they believe that they are doing what is right. But I'm going to be completely fair. That's not always true. You make a villain who believes that they are in the right and are so blinded by delusions of grandeur and whatnot, you create a character who's kind of stale, kind of boring. Now, as a guy who is currently writing a story, I can safely say that you want to make a villain impose the hero, have them meet multiple times throughout the story, and have the villain do something drastic. For example, we're going to have Arthas kill Uther the Lightbringer. Arthas does that. He doesn't mind killing them. Granted, he threatened him with treason, like maybe, 20 minutes ago or something like that. But it's more so the idea that Arthas is this imposing, just deadly villain with no care about anyone or anything. The only thing he cares about is amassing more power to save his people, ironically. But then, once he goes over the limit, he then realizes what he's done. And ultimately has reached that point of no going back. I'm doing this now, I'm going to make the world suffer as I have suffered. Or at least that's what it feels like. Arthas and Darth Vader are fundamentally the same characters. Pre-Arthas losing, the battle against the champions of Azeroth, and Darth Vader losing to Luke. Both of those characters were fundamentally the same. They imposed the hero, they made their debut in a really awesome way, Arthas taking Frostmourne and leaving a dwarf to die, and Darth Vader becoming Darth Vader, let's be real here. Walking through that stairway the first time was quite an impressive display of power. He was always so terrifying without any fear, without any rhyme or reason for being that scary. But he did it. Maybe it's the stature, maybe it's the black suit, maybe it's the helmet. Because honestly, in my opinion, I think his helmet was quite intimidating. Like, if I looked at that now, I'd probably be still intimidated because of the weight it carried. Anakin Skywalker is currently under that suit and is dead on the inside. Or it's more accurate to say that he's screaming on the inside. Because Anakin never truly died. Darth Vader came in and clouded his judgment. Arthas was the same way. Arthas was hearing the voices from Frostmourne tell him, go and kill a bunch of people, and also the old gods, but this is not the lore video. I'll probably talk about Arthas in his own little separate video if you guys want me to, but I digress. Arthas is this imposing character, one who cannot be beaten. Same as Darth Vader. They cannot be beaten by traditional means. They have to either be killed by a chosen one, or they just have to be, hit over the head with a sword repeatedly, or, insanity. Because the champions of Azeroth thought to themselves, that didn't work, so let's hit him harder this time and see if that works. The definition of insanity is trying something over and over and over again and expecting different results. I'm looking at you, Arthas, right now. Don't you freaking dare. Let's get this out of the way. What else could Arthas do that Darth Vader did? Well, one, kill a bunch of people. Both had that in spades. Heck, Darth Vader killed a bunch of children just simply because he can. And then blew up Alderaan, racking up his children murdering count to, an entire planet. Yay! That's not dark at all. Now, again, we're going to continue on with the idea of what is a good villain. A good villain continues to impose the hero, and I've said it 100 times now, I just realized, but I'm not going to stop the recording because this is going to get really annoying fast, and I'm just tired and haven't slept yet. So let's go on. Now, what else makes this villain a villain? This villain can be imposing. If you want a villain to be imposing, have them constantly taunt the hero. Have them constantly do something other than stand around waiting for the hero to appear. That's a great way of doing it. Now, how do you make a villain stay a villain without making them redeemable? Well, that's simple. Don't freaking make them sympathetic. It's plain and simple. There's not a lot of room to work with. Don't make them sympathetic. Make them sympathetic, that means that there's room for redemption. You want to make them non-sympathetic, and you will get a villain who is cold, uncaring, and evil down to the core. Let's take Dracula, for example. Dracula is a prime example. Dracula is pure evil. End of discussion, no questions asked. He is beyond redemption and cannot be swayed. He will want to destroy the planet no matter the cost and no matter how long it takes. Darth Vader was able to be redeemed because of his son. He had a love for his son, which is why he never killed him. In the 5th movie, Darth Vader was never able to kill Luke because of the love of his son. I do genuinely believe that. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but I digress. Let's continue on with the idea of Arthas. Arthas cannot be redeemed, no matter how much some companies try, they will continue to fail at redemption. He is beyond redemption. The reason is because he massacred a bunch of people, brought the dead back to life, which is not a good thing, literally destroyed an entire city simply because he can, and then thought he was justified. And then killed a bunch of people who were trying to stop him, and was offered multiple chances of surrender and a quick death, but no, chose to fight regardless. That is unredeemable. If you want a redeemable villain, make them sympathetic, make them question their own morals, make them do this, that, and the other thing, and maybe you'll be able to make a pretty good redeemable villain. If you want a cold-hearted villain, make them unsympathetic. Make them hate the world for no reason than just because they can. And make them kill people. That's something that a lot of villains don't do nowadays, is the idea of murder. They're evil. They are uncaring. kill people. They will do that simply because they can. That is what a villain does. They do things because they can. It is not the end of the world. You can make a good villain, and they can be bad without being good. Make them bad for the sake of bad sometimes, and you will get a really good villain. That is how it works. That is how it always will work. Make the villain a bad guy. If you want me to do anything else, then go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and go ahead and tell me what character type you want me to talk about next. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good one.